Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Wednesday, January 12th. I'm feeling much better about the market today as we bounce back a little bit. Got that inflation data hitting this morning, 7%. Not too surprising, very high, but everyone was kind of expecting that. Markets responding accordingly. We'll talk about that and a lot more before we dive into things. CJ, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well, Monty. I mean, it's not saying much, but this is the best Bitcoin has looked in weeks, I would say. But I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well too, doing well. And it's not just Bitcoin, right? Some of these alts looking very strong as well. One of your favorites, Phantom, really just rushed towards that $3 level. That kind of speaks to the fact to me that these alts have been waiting to run. They're kind of been held back a little bit by Bitcoin's price action, but right now there is a lot of opportunity in this space. So plenty to talk about today. But let's get it started with some. Oh, go ahead.
This was one thing that I ran into yesterday that was quite interesting was the new token on Polkadot known as Glimmer. It was an airdrop. It went up like 3,000% yesterday to those individuals who wanted to get into the pre-sale before. But when that actually launched in Polkadot through Moonbeam, it was quite interesting. Those Glimmer tokens went up like 3,000% yesterday. They've crashed down quite a bit today. But those types of airdrop opportunities, I think, are quite interesting. And, that we saw that in the Polkadot ecosystem yesterday. So a lot of interesting stuff going on in the space. I cut you off, Monty. Please go ahead, my friend.
No, that's very interesting, CJ. It seems like this trend of layer ones is just continuing to emerge. It's going to be really exciting to watch DOT. We kind of hinted at that towards the end of last year, but finally some legitimate utility coming to the blockchain. It's going to be very interesting to see how Moonbeam is responded to by the community. Let's dive into some headlines here. I want to start with this inflation data. U.S. inflation rose to a nearly 4-decade high of 7% in December. Not too shocking to anybody. People were expecting high inflation data, and it did really kind of seem like the market was pricing in some high inflation data coming into today's announcement. But overall, what we're seeing today so far on the back of this news is Bitcoin responding very positively, traditional equities looking strong as well. So, nothing too exciting here. But one thing that I think is worth mentioning, this was shared with me by one of the members of our community, one of our fellow members of the hedge fund, Nod. Yesterday was actually his birthday, so shout out to you, Nod. You guys might see him in the chat. Wish him a happy birthday if you see him in there. But he shared this chart with us, and I think it's a timely chart to look at. Although sometimes the kind of inflation hedge narrative seems to be lost because we're so in tandem with traditional equities at times. This is still a very important chart to consider. And this is Bitcoin inflation schedule versus time. Obviously, Bitcoin is unique in the sense that its block halving schedule cuts the amount of new supply entering the market every 4 years. And right now we're sitting right about here. So above 1% after 2025, we'll be entering below that 1% threshold. And ultimately, we're just getting lower and lower. So interesting stuff there. And when you combine that with the fact that, inflation data for the US dollar has really just absolutely gone crazy since the pandemic. I expect this narrative to eventually start to gain some traction. Right now, it just doesn't seem to be, gaining all that much traction, but still, this is a very, very important narrative to, keep in the back of your head because inflation is still running rampant and, Bitcoin's halving schedule accounts for that. So, not too surprising that we're seeing Bitcoin respond strongly this morning after we got that announcement of 7% inflation data. But also, like we said, it's really brought back that risk-on attitude in a lot of these alts. Many are approaching new all-time highs. So exciting market. Excited to trade this as we, enter the second half of the week here. Thoughts on this inflation data and the effects we're seeing on the market here today, CJ?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I think it was somewhat expected. I heard a lot of, Twitter folks saying, oh, that's just a psych op. The real number is way higher, but I'm not going to get into any of that. What I want to talk about is the TNX and just highlight the price action that we've seen in that. And just the fluctuations, because as we've decreased in the TNX and the DXY, traditional markets as well as crypto has really been able to rally here. And one thing that we had been highlighting and kind of talking about was this TD sequential sell 9 on the TNX. Also, you have just a very characteristic fractal pattern, very, very characteristic of like a topping pattern on that TNX. So, all throughout this parabolic increase, the last few weeks, that was really scaring traditional markets. It was also scaring crypto and, pushing investors towards more value plays, less growth opportunities and high risk. And so, we'll see if this kind of continues down, consolidates, or just remains rather quiet. Because as long as it's not going like parabolic, kind of like it was back in earlier October and then earlier in this month, the market usually has a tendency to do pretty well in terms of just bullish continuation. So we'll see if that can continue. But in the DXY, kind of a similar picture. It's had a really nice trend for quite a while now, but it's just beginning to break down off of some of those critical levels. So obviously that's going to push investors back into a little bit more of risk on assets, especially in the currency markets as well. So interesting stuff there.
Yeah, that's I think if nothing else, these last couple of weeks have proven how important those metrics are to watch. Specifically the TNX and the DXY, and their inverse relationship with the price action of Bitcoin. And like you said, just sort of that overall risk-on psychology, and encouraging traders to go into more risk-on assets. Bitcoin and crypto is still definitely in that category of a risk-on emerging tech assets. So, yeah, good stuff there. How about the altcoins, CJ? Just really quick, we got assets like Phantom reaching new all-time highs. Like you said, Polkadot and Moonbeam also making some very interesting moves here. One thing I just want to quickly point out is yesterday I talked a little bit about Bitcoin dominance. And, I think that it's very important to look at Bitcoin dominance in conjunction with the DXY and the TNX, like CJ just pointed out, because that really is a great gauge for that sort of risk-on attitude that has people more willing to enter into these riskier altcoin trades. And we see that reflected in Bitcoin dominance. When Bitcoin dominance is falling, that means that people are looking more downstream into the altcoins, speculating into the higher risk assets. And, that makes sense when we see this downturn in the DXY and TNX. Like we said, it just kind of implies that investors are moving out of the safer plays, moving out of bonds and moving into more speculative risk assets. And you see the exact same thing on a more micro scale within the realm of crypto. Bitcoin is ultimately the safe play within the crypto space, although it is highly speculative, relative to other assets. Within the crypto space, it is the store of value. It is almost like buying a bond. It's the least volatile within the crypto space. So when you see the TNX and DXY turn down, those are ideal times historically to take a look at the alts, because like I keep saying, that is when people are most willing to take risk on highly speculative assets. So it's worth continuing to watch, because that DXY chart, it just does look like it's kind of breaking down after kind of consolidating there at those highs for quite a while. So this could continue here into the weekend, and we'll continue to watch this here as the day goes on.
Yeah, to your point, Monty. Bitcoin dominance, like, it's at a very critical level. And yeah, we really haven't seen like a pure, like, euphoric alt season, because we haven't broken that critical level of 40. We've just been teetering on it, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays into kind of the altcoin space and collectively. And you're absolutely right. Like, I think a lot of folks who may be new to crypto they may underestimate or overlook the fact that a lot of Bitcoin OGs and a lot of whales will still just trade, in and out of altcoins, but just will still denominate their entire stack in Bitcoin and just, trade altcoins to stack BTC because they're bullish in the long term. That tends to be the case. And it was very much more prominent like that in the early days. Things have changed a lot now since we have stable coins and a lot more fiat on-ramps for the alts. But anyways, it's going to be a really interesting week of price action. Now that we've gotten the CPI numbers out, I think there's a lot of really anxiety in the market, namely on Sunday and Monday leading up until that. But it seems that the seas have kind of calmed for the moment here, and things should be a little bit smooth, at least in the foreseeable future. But regardless, we'll keep you guys updated in the community room continually. But Monty, anything you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just very excited about today's webinar. Like you said, CJ, I think it's going to be really interesting close to the week here. So as always, we'll be doing our member webinar today at 11:30 Central Time. If you guys want to drop in there, ask us about any tickers, whether they be altcoins, crypto-related equities, or ask us about your options positions, whatever the case may be, feel free to do so at 11:30 Central Time. If you're not yet a member, you can sign up at the link right below me, markrebellion.com/try crypto. You can try the first week for just $7. And yeah, please don't forget to hit the like button, like Mr. Chris Vincentini says. Helps out the channel a lot. Don't forget to subscribe as well on your way out. That's all I got. CJ, any parting words here for our audience?
Yes, Ray. Thank you. Sheeb is coming to Robinhood, and I think not many folks know, but like Robinhood is basically, of their crypto offering, they're basically like a Doge factory. Like I think it's like 85 to 90% of all of their buys are just straight Dogecoin. So yeah, Sheeb coming to Robinhood, that could be quite interesting. I'm not a hater of Doge. I look forward to an opportunity to speculate on it in the future. It has that like, it's more ubiquitous than kind of any other, more ubiquitous to like the public than to any other cryptocurrency. Like it's the one cryptocurrency I've ever seen that like just ordinary everyday people are like, hey, look, I just bought this doggy coin. Like, isn't it funny? So
Yeah, and we're hearing a first week of February for listings of Sheeb on Robinhood. And yeah, like you said, CJ, Robinhood is kind of a bastion for that retail meme money, whether it be Dogecoin or GameStop. Lots of capital does actually flow through there into some assets like that. So could actually have an interesting effect there. But yeah, early February is when that will be going live on Robinhood. So keep an eye out for that. But that's all we got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you on today's webinar. Have a great rest of your day and take care.